first ever Stanley Cup Finals game in 52 years of playoff history. And they really had to stay with the Bruins, who scored the first goal. But then...
Down to Bortuzzo, to Gunnarsson. Gunnarsson looking for the deflection. Bozak, through the blue paint. It went wide. Here's a drive. They score! Bortuzzo puts it in. And the St. Louis Blues tie the game 1-1. Bortuzzo put it to the net, and the St. Louis Blues have tied the game at a goal apiece.
And that tied it up because the Bruins got their first goal on really in a goal that Bennington should have stopped. It went right through the 5-hole, that sort of thing. Blues come back, and then, end of the first period, here come the Blues again against the Bruins.
Bergeron behind the net, centered over to Pasternak. Along the wing, it's taken away. Tarasenko, break wide for Schwartz with Tarasenko. Shoots, rebound, save, Rask, and the Blues score! Tarasenko stayed with the rebound and chipped it over the pad of Rask. And the Blues have tied the game at 2.
Okay, so now it stayed at 2 for a couple of periods. And well into overtime. First overtime Stanley Cup final game in 3 years. Pens and Sharks. Now, all of a sudden, delayed penalty. Now, one of the intriguing things here, remember what I told you, is that the Blues could not play obviously the Blues could not play the Bruins game. And by that I meant, taking stupid penalties and all this. I found it very intriguing. Blues were only on 3 power plays during the game. Bruins were on 5. So the Bruins are now, we're converting, by the way, at a 25% pace on the regular season, are now only 1 for 10 on the power play. They're not converting, even though maybe they're getting the Blues to play their style of game. But then, lo and behold, delayed penalty on Boston, and it hurt them.
Barbashev to Sundqvist. He launched it wide. Delayed penalty against Boston. Gunnarsson to O'Reilly. To Gunnarsson. He scores! Boom, boom, Gunnarsson! Bring out the Zamboni. The Blues win game 2. 3-2 the final. They're coming home tied at 1.
And I know a lot of people say in the hockey playoffs, home ice doesn't mean what it does in other sports or so, but still, I thought that was very big. I thought that was huge that the Blues were able to win that game. Because now they go, effectively they have home ice advantage. They got 3 games at home left potentially, whereas the Bruins, although they'd host 5 and 7, certainly, they would have the disadvantage, at least as it would go right now. I do think hosting Game 7, you get the last line change, all that. You get the people yelling, go, 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 and all that. I do think that the opposition should be able, as professionals, to handle that. I've always said that. But no, going to St. Louis, this could be something. Really could. And the longer the Blues stay around, the better the chance it is. I think that, this is a 5-game series. I think the Bruins will win the next 3. It's a 7-game series. I don't know. And it's tied at 1. Now, Craig Berube is the Blues head coach. He thinks his team played, as I do, a full game.
The first period in the first game, we played our game for the most part. But tonight we played it for 60 minutes.
Remember, the Blues led after a period, 2-0, Game 1 of Stanley Cup Finals. Then they lost 4-2. So, remember I said the Bruins were going to try to make the Blues take some penalties, rough them up, that sort of thing. That's the style of play. Brad Marchand has 95 penalty minutes on the year. Here, however, is Blues coach Craig Berube talking about St. Louis playing their game.
That's when we're at our best. We have to get pucks in deep, and there's no room to make much plays anyhow. They're a very good defensive hockey team. They reload well. They got gaps, and there's not a lot of room. So we need to put pucks in deep and go.
There you go. Put pucks in deep. Obviously, I mean, this is Hockey 101 that they're talking about here. By the way, Ron Neckeye here coming up in just a few. Hey, speaking, though, of hockey playoffs, the NHL isn't the only league that is having them. And this is why I said, more cosmopolitan area, the Tri-Cities, a new arena could bring in, say, a hockey team like the ECHL. And that would be big. I'm looking, by the way, at some of the ratings for, first of all, the NBA as well as the NHL. One of the things that kills NHL ratings sometimes is when there's a Canadian team that plays in a playoff round because, there's a market. Montreal, that's not an American market. Ratings are taken among Americans. Same thing is probably going to happen now with the Toronto Raptors in the NBA Finals, which, of course, begin here tonight. And this you got to remember. The NBA playoff series, I'll just show you this. The Raptors and the Bucks, they were getting a 3.8 rating on TNT. Now, I know that's TNT, and what I'm going to tell you about is NBC, but remember, Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals last year was a 3.9. So, I'm not saying the Stanley Cup is going to outdraw on the TV ratings Warriors and Raptors. In fact, I'd be very surprised if it did. But don't be surprised if it's not that big of a gap. And I will continually say this. I think that hockey has a future because so far the winds of political change, it's the one sport that really, hasn't been oversaturated with politics. And I think that therefore it becomes very inviting for everyone to watch. I think it would be better placed if the fighting was ended immediately, that you got that stigma away from it. I think that being a contact sport might actually help the sport. Because we don't like boxing, but we picked up on MMA. Hey, it's shorter and all that. Even WWE is not doing all that well anymore. Long knives seem to be out for football. Football, though, is the monster that you just can't kill. But still, you wonder about player participation and the like. And then, we want to skate around. We want to be men's men. We want to, hit the ice here. Still want to brawl a little bit. I don't want to sit out in right field all day long. That's not my idea of a good time. Hoops. Hey, I'm not 7 feet tall. Back and forth and back and forth. Not that many roster spots to make. I'm telling you. And, there is a Predators Cup. Tennessee high school teams play it. Just not East Tennessee high school teams. And we are diminished then. We're not cosmopolitan then. A new rink, a new arena with a area for a rink, that could be huge. Really change the area cosmopolitan. You want to talk about growing the area, more things to do. Well, obviously, there'd be a need for hockey coaches then. But more than that, too, I think that you might have, hey, there's an appeal here for me to come to. That sort of thing. I go to ETSU. I move in from another area. Now there's an appeal for me to do so. That's all I'm saying. Especially people that, work from home, which we're now getting, more online and all that, can work from wherever we want to. I'm just saying. Could really be big. So there you go. That's one of the reasons why I'm telling you about the NHL play. I will tell you this. I was going to say, but the American Hockey League, they play for something called the Calder Cup. That series actually hasn't even begun yet. And this is kind of interesting. The Carolina Hurricanes, their team based in Charlotte, And Chicago, which is actually the home of the Golden Knights farm system, if you can believe it, they're going to be playing against each other for the Calder Cup trophy. The one interesting thing here is that the goalie for Charlotte may actually be the Hurricanes goalie next year. Take a look at this. Alex Nedjikovic. He went 34-9-5 in the regular season at 226 goals against average, and he's been 8-3 of the 228 in the postseason. So he's been playing very well. If Charlotte wins the Calder Cup, don't be surprised if he plays, if this is the goalie for the Hurricanes next year. Don't be surprised at all. All right, Tri-City Sports Now, and I will be returning, and we'll be talking to Ron Neckeye, who only pitched the greatest game in the history of the Tri-Cities.
EMB Sports Radio.